So you've obviously mentioned LinkedIn and email call. So there are many options out there, gifting and all of that. So what mix do you recommend?
Ooh, that's what
Mhm.
channel mix is such a tough question because it does depend on who you are selling to. Here's the litmus test I would ask people to give themselves. Are you on at least 3 channels? If you can't be on 3 channels, can you find a way to optimize the channels you are on? Meaning, if you are using phone and email as your only 2 channels, how are you not just thinking about phone connects, but how are you making sure that every voicemail you leave matters? It is so rare that I come in to work with an organization and that they have a script for voicemail. Everybody is just willy-nilly about it. But if you look at that 2 to 6% connect rate, you're not talking to very many people. Most of what you're doing on the phone is having the opportunity to leave voicemails. So the fact that we aren't being strategic about how we leave voicemails, making sure that they are concise because they're often transcribed and people read them, not listen to them, making sure that we are using the voicemail to point to that email or LinkedIn touch point, because it's highly unlikely somebody's going to call you back. It's much more likely they'll go look at the email that you sent. So really, again, centering the buyer. How is the buyer going to interact with that voicemail, and then creating a strategy around that. Or maybe texting, right? So like if you're only going to use 2 channels, how can you take that 1 channel phone and really make sure it's not just about phone calls? You're also thinking about a texting strategy. You're also thinking about a voicemail strategy. And I would also add to that litmus test, are you picking channels that allow you to meet your prospects where they are at? And the reason a 3 channel approach is sort of the minimum, my minimum, is because we need to acknowledge that our prospects have different communication preferences. And not everybody's going to want a cold call. Some people will, though. Not everybody is going to be checking their LinkedIn messages at least once a month. Some people will, though. So by creating at least 3 different communication approaches, you're really giving yourself the greatest potential to start conversations with your prospects where they want to have conversations. And one thing I would add to the idea of a multi-channel approach and picking your channels is, so often I hear sellers especially say, well, I would never answer a cold call. And then they use that as the justification for why they don't want to have cold calls in their sequences, or cold calls as one of their touches. It's not about you. It does not matter whether or not you would answer a cold call. Like that's such a seller centric way of thinking, and it's still so prevalent. So a call to action to remember that you are not creating these sequences and you're not creating these touches based on your preferences. You're creating them with your buyer's preferences in mind, and with an understanding that if you are reaching out to 100 people, there's going to be multiple communication preferences in that batch. So giving them options to interact with you on a variety of channels will really optimize your chance of engagement.